The spark that set Arab passions ablaze was lit not in Iraq, as Abu Musab al-Zarqawi had supposed, but in a rubble-strewn lot in eastern Syria. It happened on the cool, hazy morning of January 3, 2015, behind a bombed-out building in Raqqa, where the Islamic State's media unit had set up video cameras and a small metal cage. At least 2 dozen extras in identical masks and uniforms took their places, some forming a gauntlet and others pretending to guard. Finally, the video's featured player was led in. Muath al-Kasasbeh, 26, the Jordanian fighter pilot, now in a loose orange tunic and pants, his hands unshackled, walked unescorted through the mist-shrouded set as though wandering through his own dream. The first image of Al-Kasasbeh since his capture on December 24 depicted a young man whose face was swollen and bruised, evidence of a beating that had taken place sometime after he was seized. Before being led onto the film set, he was made to sit before a camera to tell his own story, or the parts of it that ISIS had wanted him to tell. I am First Lieutenant Muath Safi Youssef Al-Kasasbeh, Jordanian from Karak, he began, an officer in the Royal Jordanian Air Force. Al-Kasasbeh's recorded account of his December 24 mission mostly followed the actual events. An F-16 pilot with nearly 3 years of experience, the Jordanian had been assigned to hit ISIS targets inside a grid of coordinates that included the city of Raqqa. His plane was part of an armada of Arab and Western aircraft that had been bombing ISIS since September 2014, when President Barack Obama launched an expanded air campaign in an attempt to drive the terrorist group from its safe havens in Iraq and Syria. Obama had ordered US warplanes and drones into Iraq a few weeks earlier to halt an ISIS advance that threatened Iraq's Mosul Dam and the Kurdish capital Erbil. Then he announced a broader coalition that included aircraft from Jordan and 5 other Arab states, including Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar. This counter-terrorism campaign will be waged through a steady, relentless effort to take out ISIS wherever they exist, Obama said in a televised speech. Al-Kasasbeh's December 24 flight had been just another routine bombing run in the service of this collective mission. The pilot was closing in on his target and had just nosed his fighter downward when his wingman spotted flames coming from the rear of his aircraft. At almost the same instant, his cockpit display warned of engine failure, and the jet began to yaw off course. He yanked on the ejection handle and was blasted from the cockpit as the F-16 plummeted toward the Euphrates River. I bailed out and fell in the river, he said in the videotaped interview. There was no time for his fellow soldiers to attempt a rescue. Al-Kasasbeh was still struggling to free himself from the ejection seat when he was seized by a burly man with a black beard and knit cap. "I am now a prisoner of the Mujahideen," he said. ISIS wasted little time in exploiting its good fortune. Within 9 days of the crash, and around the time the haggling over a possible prisoner exchange was getting underway, the group's media unit had roughed out a plan for the execution video they would make. They found a suitable location on the edge of Raqqa, a few hundred feet from the river, and they managed to secure a cage, a cube of thin metal bars with an opal floor the size of a large blanket. The crew set up multiple cameras on tripods and parked a backhoe nearby with a load of sand and rock. By the morning of January 3, everything was ready. The video was to be a professional production, far superior to the jerky, homemade offerings from Abu Musab al-Zarqawi years earlier. The final version includes a long, slickly produced preamble with computer-generated graphics and a series of clips showing Jordan's King Abdullah II giving speeches and shaking hands with Obama. A graphic animation depicts an F 16 jet breaking into pieces, which then magically reassemble themselves into the Arabic script for the video's title, helpfully translated into awkward English, healing the believers' chests. The core of the propaganda film is a montage of video images of the captured pilot juxtaposed with bodies of children and other presumed bombing victims. A camera follows Al-Kasasbeh as he walks slowly along a row of masked ISIS fighters, his breath visible in the January air. Then suddenly he is inside the cage, his head bowed as though in prayer. The pilot's orange tunic, dry in earlier scenes, is now soaked with fuel. A masked soldier, a subtitle identifies him as the leader of an ISIS unit that had been bombed in one of the coalition's airstrikes, lights a long torch and touches it to a trail of powder leading through the metal bars. In seconds, Al-Kalsasbeh is engulfed in flames. He jumps and flails, but there is no escape. At last, he clasps both arms around his face and sinks to his knees, all but obscured by the fire. Moments later, his darkened form topples over just before the backhoe crushes the cage and pilot inside with a load of broken concrete and dirt. As a final flourish, the camera zooms in on a blackened hand visible amid the rubble. Then, in the closing frames, where the film credits normally run, the video shows photographs and names of other Jordanian pilots and announces a bounty in gold coins for anyone who finds and kills one of them. So, Good tidings, the narrator says, to whoever supports his religion and achieves a kill that will liberate him from hellfire.